I have no idea why, but for some reason, soldiers getting the jab is back in the news. And the title that you see over and over again, because you know how we've been through on this channel, how they show you the fact that the AP and other news agencies all get these rough draft news articles from various sources, namely the government, and then they just kind of change some words here and there and post them. And then the title of the articles that all came out of it about a day ago was hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops still unjabbed ahead of the first deadline. And they go on to say hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops have yet to be fully jabbed against the CV as the first deadline for inoculations approaches for several branches of the military. They have until November 28th to show proof of being jabbed. And they say here that the Air Force has 60,000 personnel that haven't taken theirs. Okay. Let's look at some of the percentages, though, because we're really worried. I mean, we're making all of these news articles about this situation, so we're obviously very worried about the military, right? For some reason, the military really, we need to get them jabbed. It's very bizarre to me, but that's the case. So let's see how much they've gotten done so far. It can't be a lot because they're so worried about the hundreds of thousands of people who haven't gotten it, right? 90% of the Navy, 76% of the Marines, and 38% of the Marine Corps Reserve, which is a tiny number of people. And members of the Army and National Guard have until June 30th, so they're not even putting those numbers in there. Well, that's strange. Strange that they wouldn't talk about the Army's numbers just because of that. Perhaps we'll come across the Army's numbers later on, and most likely they'll be pretty high, wouldn't you guess? So we come over to Business Insider, and they've changed the title a little bit. Large portions of the military remain unjabbed despite looming deadlines and CV deaths. Yeah, that's a good question, you know. How many people in the military have died from the CV since they're so concerned about getting them all jabbed? I mean, obviously there has to be this massive fatality issue in the military, right? Let's look at the bullet points from the Business Insider. Large swaths of the military remain unjabbed and varying deadlines approach. Some branches have the same jab deadline, but significant disparities. Ooh. A group of service members represented by the former Trump lawyer Sidney Powell are suing the Pentagon over the mandate. So here we got some more numbers. Navy at 90, Marine Corps 76. We already went through that. So they mentioned that the Air Force had 60,000 people unvaccinated, but here we get the percentage, and it's 80.9% of them are jabbed. 80.9% are, and they only spoke about the 60,000 or so that were not in the previous article. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. Oh, here we got some numbers on the Army. Active duty Army with approximately 481,600 members stands at 81% fully jabbed. Wow! So these numbers, 90%, 76%, 80%, 81%, these are all vastly higher than the vast majority of counties in the United States of America. These people are as highly jabbed as you can get. And yet, as these deadlines loom, large portions of the military remain unjabbed. Like, what is going on here? It is very bizarre that they're dedicating so much time and effort to talking about the few people in the military who have not already gone ahead and gotten this thing. And I'm disappointed and saddened by how many have. But the media's obsession with it's like they need the military to be at 90%. I mean, good God almighty, the Navy's already at 90. The other services are basically at 80. This is crazy. It's obsession, and it's starting in the military, I guess is my point. It's going to expand from the military and from New York State and California. This is where they're able to force people to do exactly what they want to do to the entire country. But the question remains unanswered. How many people in the services died from this so far? And here you find it at the top of the screen right here on the Business Insider. At least 62, that number, 62, that is a 6 and a 2, 62 service members have died from the CV according to the Department of Defense. 62. 62. And they say that as if it justifies the panic that all these news articles are insinuating. As these deadlines loom, hundreds of thousands of military members have still not taken the poke. We're at 90 and 80%, and only 62 service members have even died from the CV. Meanwhile, rumors and misinformation have spread regarding the mandates. Earlier this month, a viral Instagram post suggested that Biden ordered dishonorable discharges for service members who did not get the poke. And of course, that's not what happened, but you understand the minutia here, right? We understand that he did put a mandate in that is a lawful order, and if somebody denies a lawful order, they can be dishonorably discharged, right? We do understand that that is a possibility. No, they're pulling the old fact check okey doke here, and they know exactly what they're saying, and they know exactly what people mean, and they're just playing games. And then it talks about how they already have jab requirements, which is one of the most obnoxious methodologies that people use to push this mandate, is that, oh, well, we already require all of these jabs that are all like 70 years plus old and have no doubts about their efficacy and what dangers they pose, and then they try to equate those with this. It's infuriating because, again, they know damn well what they're saying, and they know damn well what the truth is. And the truth is, you can't throw the MMR and the Tdap in the same category as this new thing that they're trying to push on people. Absolutely ridiculous that they even try to conflate that. So 62 deaths. They're already at 80 and 90% jabbed, and these news articles are coming for these soldiers, these few 100,000 soldiers, and a lot of them are in the reserves, right? And they probably haven't even met to have drill since the mandate came out. But, you know, they're not talking about stuff like that. They are just in the news to push this narrative that they're going to get the military to 100% by God, and then they're coming for the people. I'm telling you. So you have 62 soldiers that have died throughout this entire thing from this, and yet they've mobilized the entire military to make sure everybody gets a needle in an arm, right? But they don't even want to talk about the fact that active duty suicide rate has hit an all-time high in 2020, about how it's up to 28.7 per 100,000. You want to talk about 62 soldiers have died about this CV since the beginning of all this. And in the meantime, they're losing 28.7 per 100,000 yearly to suicide. The highest rate of suicide since the Pentagon began keeping track in 2008. It's even worse for veterans. This is active duty. The year-over-year change to the suicide count is not a huge increase, but the increase to the rate over time is cause for concern, and there needs to be renewed focus to suicide-specific prevention initiatives. Really? So you mobilize the entirety of the military to get these needles in people's arms, but in the meantime, you're losing 28.7 soldiers per 100,000, which is a very deceptive way of making that statistic stick out, because they don't want to tell you how many hundreds of thousands of people there are in active duty, because then they would just have to multiply that number by that number, and it would be higher than 28.7. You see, statistics, what they do, it's disgusting. 28.7 per 100,000 every year to suicide, and they've got everybody. They got needles in everybody's arms. Over 62 soldiers that have passed since the beginning of this entirety, and y'all know how they're keeping track of these numbers. I don't even have to get into that. I'm not even allowed to, because I'm still uploading to YouTube. You know, I could if this was strictly going to Rumble or BitChute, but we can't even get into that now because I'm still uploading to YouTube. So you have this obvious plague, suicide in the military and veterans. It's just like the obvious plague of opioid abuse in the country right now. That's killing tens of thousands of young people, and nothing's being done about it. Yet all this mobilization over this other thing, it really leaves you to wonder. Especially since, listen, they shouldn't even be coming for these military members, because the Pentagon released its guidelines for the religious exemptions, and of course even Fox News, because Fox News is just like any other news, like CNN or MSNBC, same thing. Listen to how they phrase it. Pentagon releases religious exemption guidelines for the bypassing of mandatory jabs. So just so you know, religious exemption guidelines, it's not to bypass the mandatory jab. It is because you are being exempted from it on your religious grounds. Using the word bypass like you're trying to get around it. It insinuates that there is some kind of nefarious motivation behind it. Like as if people don't really have religious exemptions, behind it. Like, people don't really have a problem with the fact that it was either made with or tested on those that came from aborted fetuses. People don't really have a problem with that. They're just using that to bypass the mandate. It's obnoxious the way that they phrase things, but moving on. The Pentagon has laid out very specific ways where you can make a religious exemption. You have to sit through a 15-minute counseling, which if you've ever been in the military, you know that nothing happens without a 15-minute counseling. So you sit through a 15-minute counseling, and then you submit your religious exemption, and you're exempt. Bada bing, bada boom. And this is really important for me to highlight because, you know, everybody's like, oh, these soldiers are going to get dishonorably discharged, and look at the mandate, and this is horrible. And yet, if you read the article here, it's, you know, there's a methodology where they can get a religious exemption. And if you have this belief that you really don't want to take this poke because you're really concerned about it, then you'll do what you need to do to not do it. And the method is right here. The outline is here. And it's available to every soldier. So it's very funny to me that they're making these news stories panicking about the 10% and sometimes 20% of soldiers who haven't taken the poke yet. When in reality, they may never take it because they all have the right to file this wonderful religious exemption. And if they just want to read the guidelines here, they can file it for themselves if they happen to be listening. I'll put all the links that I've gone through underneath my pinned comment on this video. So you'll get under my video, you'll see there's a pinned comment there. It's got, you know, all the ways to donate to my channel. And then if you comment on that pinned comment or go there like you're going to comment on it, you'll find all the links where I've commented all the links underneath. I get that question a lot. That's where my links are if I share them. Sometimes I don't. It depends on the video. But very clear ways for them to file their religious exemption. And this is released by the Pentagon and the DoD. And everybody has the right to do this. So use it. It's not always all so woe is me. Instead of wondering about, oh God, they're gonna, oh, it's the dishonorable discharge and look what they're doing to the military. Help spread the word that they have a method for making a religious exemption. Maybe it brings them closer to God in the process of filing for it. You know, it's not always so negative, guys. Anyways, love y'all. Very confused why they're pushing this stuff on the military members. Why do you think that they keep talking about the military members? I think they want to get them to like 99% so that they can just come for the civilians. But, you know, what do I know? Anyways, y'all, like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you would like to donate to my channel, I would very much appreciate that. All the ways to do so are in the pinned comment, and the links will be below that. Love y'all. Peace.